coming to you with my favorite show, or tied for favorite show, America's Mayor Live. The other shows are the Rudy Giuliani Show on 3 to 4 on WABCRadio.com and Uncovering the Truth, that very special show every Sunday with Dr. Is a, well, she's a genius. What the heck? She's not here, I can say that. She would get embarrassed if I did. I am in outskirts of Washington, D.C. I'm in the outskirts of Washington, D.C. When the FBI was sneaky, going after my and spying on my iCloud account, who knows what they'd be looking at me and stuff like that. Did you know that? Did you know the FBI spied on my iCloud account roughly from the day that I began representing Donald J. Trump? And they pretty much stopped 2.5 years later when I stopped doing it. And no bar association in America seems to have any trouble with that. They have trouble with me, but they have no trouble with that. Does this trouble anybody? They had no interest in me before. Well, I'm not going to say they had no interest in me, but they didn't have that kind of interest. Plus, I've never seen the affidavit that they used to justify such a massive intrusion into my privacy, not only as an individual citizen, but as a lawyer. And there surely have to be some questions because they probably got nothing from it, because otherwise they wouldn't have then gone and gotten 2 more warrants to raid and search my house and my law office. Now, does that trouble you, that they raided my law office? Since I also had other clients, in addition to, at that time, President Trump. And what the hell? Nobody cared about their rights. Certainly not the Justice Department, certainly not under this lawless Attorney General. But again, the Bar Association seemed to have had no trouble with that either. A lawyer's office going after a guy the day he becomes a lawyer for somebody you don't like doesn't say something more troubling than even the investigation itself, maybe deeper in terms of erosion, destruction of sacred constitutional rights. They are sacred, aren't they? Doesn't seem that way in Democrat America, modern Democrat America. But neither affidavit have I ever seen. Got to be something a little strange about the affidavits, because 1.5 to 2 years after the second affidavits for the law office and my home, they wrote a report to the grand jury in the Southern District of New York, which said there wasn't any probable cause to justify any continuation of the investigation or indictment of me. Now, probable cause is the basis for a warrant. So somehow they had probable cause in 2019 or whenever it was, and they had probable cause when they barged into my apartment and office, but it disappeared. Sort of went the way of Russian collusion. Remember that? Or Russian pawn. That's me. I was a Russian pawn. I think they'd at least make me a knight, right? Like a Russian knight or something. After all, I am an honorary knight, commander of the British Empire. I don't throw that around much. Doesn't do you any good with speeding tickets and stuff. You can't say to a police officer, I'm a knight commander of the British Empire. He'd probably put you in jail for bribery or undue influence or something like that, and he probably should. I don't know if it would work in Great Britain. What do you think? Nah, you shouldn't do stuff like that. Sorry I'm being a little sarcastic, but I feel sarcastic. Now, why do I feel sarcastic today? We're going to spend a little time on the election, and I'm going to talk to you a bit about Wisconsin and Ted's going to talk to you a bit about Michigan, and then the two of us will engage in a conversation as we get ready for the. I mean, how can it be a Republican debate when the guy that's got all the votes isn't there? I don't know. It's going to be a debate between the Republican candidates who have no votes. This single-digit debate. This is going to be a debate in which there are going to be 7 or 8 candidates. I am not sure if any of them is in double digits, meaning like 10% or better. So this is really interesting. This would be like, I don't know in your house if it was true of your big family, where they put the children at a special table. You know, like all the grown-ups would be at one table and the children would be at another table. So all the 4 and 5% or 6% will be at one table, and Donald Trump will be sitting there all by himself, probably hanging around with like the lawyers who got indicted with him and stuff like that, planning like an overthrow of the government, an insurrection without anyone being armed and without a spontaneous insurrection. Well, we will get into the debate also, which is being watched by 14 people on Fox. The rest of the people are watching us right now, but later on they'll be watching like Tucker Carlson, I think, is having a discussion with Bill O'Reilly, and nobody knows what it's about, but they prefer watching it to the single-digit debate. Ted, is Trump doing anything to upstage them tonight? Like just whistling or something?
Yeah.
You're getting 1 hour of whistling by Donald Trump?
It's quite something, right? And of course, Fox all day, Mayor, they've been
this
debate. I don't even know if they've covered Trump in Detroit.
Well, you know, they're working hard to try to get at least one of the people into double digits.
Yeah.
DeSantis,
That's right.
I mean, even the ones that had jumped up in the double digits have fallen back in the single digits. I am not being, I'm going to say something really provocative. I think it's quite possible that one of the people on that stage tonight will eventually be president of the United States, maybe 2. I mean, these are qualified people. I am not saying that. I'm just saying the truth, which is it's a single-digit debate. They don't have any support. It is clear the will of the Republican electorate. If you're honest reporter of events, I don't mean reporter by profession, I mean reporter of events, you'd have to say that the overwhelming number of Republicans support the nomination of Donald J. Trump, and that it's a fringe group that are on the other side. And the fringe group is divided among all these candidates who have a very, very small vote, and they're all going to debate tonight. And it's distracting, interesting, because they will probe the issues and hopefully hit some of them pretty hard, and also give us a sense of the future of, in my case, my party, the Republican Party. So I am rather lighthearted tonight because I find it amazing that within a week's time, I've been accused of 2 things I didn't do at all. Not even. Sometimes you're accused. People lie about you, right? And there's some kind of truth attached to it, and it's been either deliberately embellished or deliberately changed. Even a negative may be turned into a positive, or vice versa. Things you didn't say are attributed to you at an event you were actually at. I have had 2 serious allegations made against me in the last 10 days, repeated on all the communist networks over and over again with great glee, that I find in some ways almost funny, although it's very sad because it shows the breakdown of our system of justice and our ability to even communicate. I am accused by the son of the President of the United States, who is a lifetime degenerate drug addict, and when questioned, couldn't even remember if he left his computer with John Mac Isaac, and doesn't seem to know that he's missing a computer, which means he's either lying or completely out of it. But he accuses me in his lawsuit of, and along with my lawyer, Robert Costello, of hacking his alleged computer. Not his computer. Not his unequivocally, existing or once existing computer, but his alleged computer. I do not know what an alleged computer is. An alleged computer is a computer that may or may not exist. I guess I could answer it by saying I may or may not have hacked it. But since I don't know how to hack, I can answer it unequivocally, you're lying, because I don't know. I never hacked anything. I think it's illegal. Maybe some forms of it aren't. I don't know. Awful lot of people do it. I have an idea of what it is. You steal things off somebody's computer, but how you go about it, I don't know how to do it, and would rather not learn. So, Hunter Biden, degenerate drug addict, son of the president, stuffed the complaint up your you know what. Now, I got to figure out what to do with this complaint, which we'll discuss in a minute. I'm going to give you the varying tactics that one could employ with this completely frivolous complaint about something I didn't do. The other one is the lawsuit by the woman who says that I groped her at the January 6th speech. As far as I can tell, I did it in a tent or enclosure where people went in to get out of the sub-freezing, sub-zero degree freezing temperature. So all I can tell you about that is I didn't. There are sufficient witnesses so that I can prove the negative, which is hard to do, and meaning that it was a very, very, it was a day in which I was in the company of numerous people, both that I brought with me and that attached to me when I got there. First of all, I had somewhat increased security with my usual security enhanced by the presence of former police commissioner Bernard Carrick, who was not only doing my security, he was the chief investigator really for the president with regard to the election investigation. But that day he was quite concerned about my safety. Of course, the president had the Secret Service protecting him. When I look back on it, I wonder how good their protection was, since a threat had been made on the president's life a day or two before, about which they have never done anything, and that was by Sullivan, John Sullivan, who sent out a tweet saying that the Antifa people should come to Washington and take Trump out on January 6th. Now, you say, well, that could mean a lot of things. It's true, it could, and it might not have been a death threat. But the law and the practice of the Secret Service is to interpret any thing that can be interpreted as a death threat, at least in the first instance, as a death threat, to arrest the person and find out what the hell did you mean by that. In this case, Mr. Sullivan was not arrested for that, even though he was under indictment, I believe at the time, or had already been arrested for and charged with inciting a riot at which a human being was shot and killed, a riot he had the opportunity to photograph, as he then eventually did with January 6th. But that was a clear threat on the president, unaddressed by the Secret Service. So suffice it to say, without giving away too much about our case, which my lawyers would not like, there is a person or persons independent of me who had eyes on me consistently during the day, who will say that nothing remotely similar to that happened. And then there's finally the great defense that I've used at trial and seen used successfully of impossibility. According to this witness, not only did I put my hands down her top, but I put my hands up her coat and dress, which means in front of a significant number of people, I would have to have bent all the way over and put my hands all the way up her coat and dress in front of numerous people, including my partner, Dr. Ryan, her son, 5 or 6 members of my staff, and numerous other people who were crowding around me seeking to take a picture with me. There are people who like me, by the way. Not too many, but there are.
Oh, that's you're being humble, Mayor.
And I think Ted would attest to this. I'm not one of those people that's annoyed if you want to take a picture with me. In fact, I'm kind of flattered if you do.
No, you're just very realistic, and you've told me I'm not. All right, I won't give the full explanation, but you've told me, Mayor, and it makes so much sense. You go out of your way to make sure you take the picture, unless you're like we're rushing into the station. But even then, you'll usually we got to go. Oh, okay, come on, make it quick. You go out of your way to take these pictures, and you've told me these people put me in office. Some of them, but these are the people that elected me into office.
Yeah,
they made you into the man.
I never understood the people who are annoyed about
Other people
wanting your autograph, who want their autograph or want their picture, particularly those who are in the public eye or who in some way financially or emotionally or profit from their celebrity. Well, okay, you owe that then. And if you don't want to do it, don't be a celebrity and don't be known publicly and go sit in your house all day.
Well, and I've asked you this before. I'm curious. I want to hear this again.
You want the real reason?
No, I want to get to.
It always comes down to a traumatic experience as a child.
Well, I was going to ask you, why do people?
So this is not a big giveaway.
No, but you had a good answer before. It's a one-word answer. Why do people
Mickey
who don't
Mantle
seem to like other
turned down
people?
my autograph when I was 12 years old with my friends. We were outside of Yankee Stadium. It was a Yankee game. We had our little scorecards. In those days, you used to keep score. It was folded over, sort of like that. And we were waiting there outside of Yankee Stadium where the players used to come out and walk over to their cars. Players used to drive themselves to work in those days. Some of them even used to take the subway.
No.
Gil Hodges used to take a trolley car. He used to take a trolley car in Brooklyn. So we're over there. There's 3 of my friends, and we go up to, and Mickey is the first one out, which was unusual. Mickey was not always the first one out, and Mickey usually came out in the company of. Mickey was very popular with the other ball players, with his friends like Billy Martin and Hank Bauer and Yogi, and all of a sudden Mickey's coming out all by himself, looking angry, and literally he didn't hurt us or anything. He pushed us away to rush to his car. Oh my goodness! If we weren't boys who like to act tough, we'd have cried our eyes out. Right behind him was these 2 I remember for sure: Yogi, Bill Skowron, who was the Yankee first baseman at the time. I think Phil Rizzuto was with them, but at the time he was an announcer, not a player. And they saw it, and they came over to us, and they said, Mickey, something like Mickey is having a bad day, or something very sympathetic about him, kind of indicated that Mickey was having a problem. Not a bad day on the ball field, but he's having, something. And then they gave us autographs and kind of spent extra time with us. Yogi, I have to say, I think Yogi was already my hero then, but he's my favorite Yankee. And I always favored the number 8 for that reason.
And you were a catcher.
And I think, well, partially because I was a catcher too, yes. But from then on, I always remembered that. Like that, in my case, I love Mickey anyway. But I think, well, that's my only confrontation with this man in my life is going to be this, and this is what I'm going to remember of him. Now, it is true I got to know Mickey before he died, and I had events at Gracie Mansion to raise money for his charity, and I got to know a very, very nice man who had a very tough life, and but it became like I don't want some 12-year-old to feel that way about me, so I do autographs for that reason, and so I don't hack, and I don't put my hands on women who don't well, I don't put my hands on women unless it's somebody I'm involved with, or somebody who's a relative, or somebody who wants me to do it, and done in a perfectly gentlemanly and nice way. Whether you like it or not, you Democrat bums. I'm a gentleman.
Well, you live by that lesson you learned through Mickey Mantle, right? I mean, today you're world famous.
I also learned through the lesson my father taught me, which is if you ever touch a woman, I'll beat the living daylights out of you.
That's right.
And you're not a man. My father taught me how to box, and when he did it, he said, "I'm teaching you how to do something. And the two things that you better not do with this, otherwise you're going to have to box with me," which was like the great fear of my life. And he said, "You better not ever bully people. If you do, the gloves come off between you and me. And number two, you better not touch a woman. Then, not only do the gloves come off with me, I will not consider you a man." And he repeated that several times, or when we would hear incidents of men doing something like that, his reaction was quite stern, on the basis of your manhood, that it was a sign of what kind of a man you were, which I always then interpreted. My father grew up, in Harlem, and he had a tough life, and he was a tough guy. But my father was a gentleman, held doors for women, and always used to talk about how you have to respect women. And he built that into me. If I did something like that, I would feel my father I would disappoint my father, who's been dead for some time. So in that sense, it hurts me, but I realize in the world that I'm in now that so many lies have been told about me, to spend too much time on them is extraordinarily wasteful and not very useful. So let's get to the Hunter Biden lawsuit. Bob and I did not hack it. It was, well, what we said actually did happen. We actually do tell the truth. We're Republicans, after all, not Democrats. And we got it from John Mac Isaacs, who had a contract signed by Hunter Biden saying after a certain period of time it became his. That period of time had run out. It was clearly his. He had turned it over to the FBI. We did nothing to change it, alter it. We couldn't. We did not have the original. When they say we edited it because you can't play the whole thing at once, right? So if I play a 2-minute excerpt from it, am I distorting it? No, I'm playing you that part of it. It's it's online. You can go look at the rest of it for yourself and figure out if I'm messing around with it, which I'm not. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. And instead of these people being in jail already, they're playing these little games, and it leaves a major crook in the White House. So on that lawsuit, we've got to decide whether we move to it's brought in California also. It says I go to California frequently. I do not go to California frequently. I do go to California. I don't think I've been to California in a year. I think over the last 4 years, I've probably been there 3 or 4 times. And none of the activities involved here involve California, so I don't know why it was brought in California. But in any event, that's where it was. I was brought as a diversity case that makes all kinds of allegations, and it's very, very incoherent in terms of the way. It was obviously not written by a high-quality lawyer. Sorry. I don't mean to insult you, but you're really not a very good lawyer. You really should try to find something else to do. And by the way, if anybody knows this lawyer, you really shouldn't pay him. It just isn't. It just isn't. You read it. It's not well written, and it's stupid. It says alleged computer. Well, either is a computer or it isn't. I don't know. I think the case could probably go out on lack of standing. It could go out on about 5 other things. I kind of like it because I would get a chance to take his deposition, and I'll do it myself. I used to be pretty good at this. You know, I once got a congressman to break down on the witness stand and confess. How many people can do that?
We're sharing that New York Times article. The New York Times wrote about that moment.
Yeah, I'd like to read. That was the beginning of my career, my first time on the front page of the New York Times. So maybe the last time is if I get one of the Bidens to break down and confess. What do you think? What do you think, like mano a mano?
I don't think Joe would understand enough of what's going on to cry. But
Oh, he'd probably think I was like Corn Pop.
hey,
Joe.
listen here, fat.
Joe. I'm no Corn Pop, Joe. If there ever really was a Corn Pop. I am not Corn Pop. And who knows what really happened between you and Corn Pop. You lie about everything. We're supposed to believe you beat this guy up. I don't know. Last time you told the truth, I think was never. So we might want to keep the darn thing going so I can take his deposition and see what he does, see what he says, get some answers. Then there's the ladies' lawsuit, and that will, less said about the better. We'll just take care of that legally. We'll take care of that legally. So we're going to take a short break to talk about really a great institution, a great organization, Tunnel to Towers. And when we come back, we'll spend a little time on I thought we would talk about Wisconsin with a couple of examples that show you that the people who have concerns and either hold the view that there were large irregularities and frauds in the election of 2020, or that it went so far as to affect the result, are not irrational, that they have a basis for this. You may agree with it or disagree with it, but they're not making it up. There are many, many facts that would allow you to make that argument or have that belief, and you are entitled to not have it, but you certainly should be able to have it without being prosecuted, persecuted, and destroyed. We'll be back in a moment. A little water, Ted. Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. You can go to Steve Bannon on Getter. Man, he gets a. I mean, Steve Bannon. We were talking about if you don't want to watch Fox, you can obviously go to Newsmax or OAM, but you can also go to the what do we call online? Ted, is that what we are?
We are we live stream. We're live
live stream.
streamers.
That's what
We
Steve does,
stream live. Steve Bannon also live streams his program.
Glenn Beck.
Glenn Beck, I believe it's live. He's a podcaster, live streamer.
But he also has a live.
Is it live or does he
No,
put
he's,
it?
he's,
Okay.
he's
Blaze
like us.
TV, that's
he
kind of
does a live
internet stream.
He does a live thing, and then it remains on like a podcast, like we do. So
That's right.
We live stream, but then the minute this show ends, we become a podcast. We just automatically become a podcast, and then we double our audience or triple it.
It's quite something.
Oh, I know, it's really interesting to see. You end, you see the number, and then a day later, it's 2 to 3 times, because look, people are busy, and they also rearrange their life the way they like. I mean, suppose we're on between 8 and 9. By the way, it's going to change next week. Next week, we're going to try 7 to 8 with a little slip over into the 8 o'clock hour, because we intend to put a special show there a couple weeks later. So we're doing a little experiment, and we'll keep warning you of that we'll be on 7 to 8. But suppose between 7 to 8, there are 3 things you like. Well, I mean, you can record it on your TV if you have a TV, or in many cases, like us or Bannon or Glenn Beck, or it remains there as a podcast, and you can go watch it 11 o'clock tonight, 12 o'clock tonight, or you can listen to it when you're in the car and as an audio podcast. A lot of people do that too. And I think it's fascinating the way the whole audience is kind of changing. So we were going to talk about Wisconsin. The best way to approach Wisconsin is to realize that Wisconsin is a special state. Well, of course, every state is special, but Wisconsin is a special state in the sense that they have much stricter rules about absentee balloting than other states. You'd almost say, as a matter of policy, and I think this is fair, historically, Wisconsin disfavors absentee balloting. They don't like it and they distrust it. So they have much stricter rules than even the strict rules that surround absentee balloting in most states. Now, why are there these strict rules about absentee balloting? Because until the Democrats, lied and did all their propaganda and something, absentee ballots, mail-in ballots were always very much distrusted. They were seen as too easily manipulated, too easily used for false voting by people who didn't vote, with then registrations attached from people who didn't vote. And since, in any election, half the people don't vote, there are a lot of registrations out there that if you can figure out who those people are, you can make up a vote and attach it to that registration if you have sufficient control of the election board and you're in a crooked city. Oh, let's what's a crooked city, Ted? Let's think of a crooked city, just off the top of your head.
In what? In Detroit?
There you go. There's a good old crooked city. Philadelphia.
Oh, Philadelphia.
Let this be a game. Philadelphia. What are you going to counter with?
Milwaukee.
All right. I come back with Atlanta.
Las Vegas, baby.
Unneeded and not necessary in this election. Chicago and New York. Let's not leave them out. Come
Los
on,
Angeles. Can't leave LA out.
St. Louis. St. Louis.
Oh my goodness. I mean, come on. We're not done. Baltimore. That doesn't count.
Is Baltimore still a city?
We've got some stories about Baltimore. We'll save those for another time.
But in any event, we're going to take a look at Wisconsin for a moment. So after the election, a very, very distinguished judge named Judge Gableman was asked to do was made a special counsel, and he was asked to do a report on the election. Judge Gableman, up until this moment, had pretty much a squeaky clean reputation as a very, very fine judge and honest man. I have no reason to believe he didn't go about this with the attempt to try to find out the truth. And of course, the lefties did everything they could to destroy his reputation when he came back with a report that showed you about 5 different ways in which this election could have been stolen, which, of course, you're not allowed to say. No. It's even worse than that. You're not allowed to believe it. You're not allowed to think it. You're not allowed to think that the election was stolen. So, among other things, in Wisconsin, because they're so strict about absentee balloting, you cannot go around and ask people to vote absentee. You can't create the mechanism. They have to affirmatively make that request to such an extent that when they count the absentee ballots, not only do they check the signature for verification, as should be done in most states and was not done in 2020. It wasn't done, at least not in the presence of Republicans at all in Philadelphia. Hundreds of thousands of votes cast, and no Republican ever got to examine the paper. Same with Atlanta. But they go one step further in Wisconsin. They require you to keep the application that you sent in for the vote to show that you requested it and no one was soliciting you to vote. The theory being, it was La Follette and was a progressive state, when progressive really meant forward-looking, not decrepit, backward-looking communist and socialist, which is what it means now. When you apply the word progressive to a modern Democrat, it's like saying that dementia is progressive. Did you ever think of that? Dementia is progressive in that every day you lose more and more brain cells to the point where you lose them all and you can't talk anymore. So the Democrats are progressive in the sense that every day they take rights away from you to the point that ultimately we become the great Obama, Klaus Schwab, Biden dream of one world, no America, no American nationality. Ooh, no. Soros doesn't like American nationalism. So, since he pays the bills, we can't have that. That's basically their trajectory. So what he found in his first, just his first report. We'll go over his second report, a little excerpt from it tomorrow. But in his first report, he found that that numerous votes have been counted where nobody kept the application, which would render them void under Wisconsin law. Eventually, the Supreme Court of Wisconsin voted 4-3 that they still should be counted. But think about this. 3 judges did agree with the Trump position, which kind of tells you it's not irrational, huh? 3 judges strongly agreed with it. And by the way, a year later, that became the correct legal interpretation, if I'm not mistaken. And he also found a real anomaly that affected the election quite dramatically. It's a teeny bit complicated. I'll try to unwrap it a bit. And here's what he writes. In its waning days of 2015, the Government Accountability Board was confronted with 28,906 voters whose information about their name and address as reported to the Department of Motor Vehicles was inconsistent with information for the same voter in the voter registration database. The GAB dismissed those concerns. However, as of 2021, those same numbers not only continue to exist and have never been adequately explained or reconciled, but increased substantially in number. So these were voters who and applications that could be used for votes that were cast by others. And the allegation is that a number of them were, and that was never investigated. Now, the number there is a number that would be enough to impact the election, 28,906 votes. That's just one example. That's just one example of fraud, irregularities in the election that certainly made the number that was reported to the federal government inaccurate. It also says that the safeguards mandated for the protection of honest absentee ballots were ignored by the voting commissioners. The illegal mass self-certification of individuals as indefinitely confined under the statute happened regularly. Presented to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, again, the majority ducked a ruling on the merits, prompting then Chief Justice Roggensack to note that it appears the court, quote, cannot be bothered with addressing what the statutes require to assure absentee ballots are lawfully cast. Can we read that one more time by the judge? This is a judge of the Wisconsin Supreme Court who rejected Trump's challenge to the legitimacy of the vote in Wisconsin. I believe he rejected it. Chief Justice Roggensack says the following. It appears the court cannot, quote, here's the quote, cannot be bothered with addressing what the statutes require to assure absentee ballots are lawfully cast. Isn't that what a court is for? Doesn't a court exist to be bothered with what the statutes require to assure that absentee ballots are lawfully cast? Doesn't that bear out what we have said throughout, that there was something seriously wrong with the way the courts handle this? I mean, the judge says it. The court cannot be bothered with addressing what the statutes require. Well, then they're not courts anymore. They're rogue courts. Courts are supposed to address what the statutes require. So when you look at this, you also have a number of proven situations where elderly people were voted for, shown how to vote. Votes were put in. There's a whole section here called exploitation of elders. This is something you should get and read when people attack the president, President Trump, for making his claim that he believes the election was stolen, which has a big bearing on the cases against him, because if he did believe that, right or wrong, then the criminal cases against him need to be dismissed. There's a basis for him believing it with regard to Wisconsin. There's also a basis if you bother to look at the movie 2000 Mules, where they do a precise calculation of the number of illegal ballots that they were able to discover, which is well in excess of the margin between Biden and Trump. And we will also have reference to that later on as we move ahead. Now I always like to give you a few things that others don't tell you. So let me see. I have them right over here. That's why I'm looking over there. Don't think I'm not paying attention to you. I guess I shouldn't even bring this up, but Ted, is there a rule? I'm thinking about the Biden dog commander, and I love dogs. And some lady on television last night must have been on Newsmax, because I said I don't watch Fox, or it may have been OAN.
Are you looking for the name of the dog?
No, the name of the dog is Commander, like the team. This dog has bitten 11 people. is there a rule? Like if I had a dog, and I did, I had a dog, Goalie, and my dog bit 11 people over the course of like 3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah.
What would happen? Would they take the dog from me?
On my understanding, usually if a dog
I'm
bites
the
a
lawyer,
human,
I should
they're
know the law,
yeah.
but I never did dog law.
Well, yeah, I can't. I don't blame. Yeah, come on, Mayor. You've been handling a few different things other than dog bites in the
I'm
neighborhood.
sorry that I don't know
Yeah.
this.
Well, growing up, I remember, I do feel that if a dog bites a person, often it's taken away, right? And I don't want to know what happens then.
So in Commander's case, maybe
Especially
they
a
should
Secret
take the
Service
people.
agent?
no, but maybe they should take the people away. A commander would operate much better under the care of a normal family.
I just don't understand how a dog gets to 11 bites.
That's a lot. Yeah,
That's a lot.
I think the last one was also a Secret Service.
And this isn't like some private property where it's, just keeping people off private property. This is the White House. This is the people's house.
Yeah, but
What does this say about the president? What
How
does
can
it?
we blame the dog? He said the dog.
Oh yeah, I
is-
don't blame the dog.
I mean, the dog is it probably with one of the weirdest families in America.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I don't blame the dog.
You've seen the pictures of Hunter sitting in the closet with no clothes on, with the smoke all around. Maybe the dog is. It's like a couple of dogs have died of fentanyl. You know that?
Oh, no.
Particularly little ones.
Well, you don't like hearing that.
Well, look at little Stanley.
Oh
That's
gosh.
my daughter's dog. Cutest little thing. Imagine if he just took a little fentanyl, just a little tiny, about this big. That dogs have died. Like there'll be traces of fentanyl left on the streets in a place like San Francisco or whatever. Some dogs have either died or gotten seriously, or cats too. From
That
fentanyl.
and a
I
lot.
mean, New York City is fentanyl central. We are a pot. We are proud to be a pot city because the mayor believes that is our salvation from economic ruin. That Mayor Adams, who has a very strange way of analyzing things, has often said that the future for New York, we no longer are the financial capital. There are more financial resources in Texas than in New York now, as Governor Abbott made very, very clear on my radio station today. But we're gonna be saved by gambling, by all the taxes we're gonna collect by gambling. The way New Jersey, for example, was saved by gambling, Adams, dope. And by the way, to be saved by gambling, lots of people have to gamble. Now, is that good? Is that a good direction for your city and state? Like, encourage lots of people to gamble so you can make money? How about this? You want to make money from the legal use of pot. In order to do that, lots of people have to use pot. Increasing numbers of people have to use pot. In fact, it would be in the interest of the city to advertise pot and encourage you to use pot so we can make more money. Do you find something perverse about that when you see the reports now coming out that the happy, stupid liberals who got you all to think that it was perfectly okay to smoke marijuana and take marijuana, that it harms your brain? That it may have something to do with the increased number of suicides with young people? That it does actual specific damage to parts of the brain, particularly the younger you are? And this all suppressed while we went about making the use of marijuana desirable to such an extent that the mayor a year or so or two ago predicted that this would be the economic salvation of New York. It would only be the economic salvation of New York if many millions of people used it and paid money for it. In fact, the more who use it, the better from the city's point of view, from collecting money. But what do we say about the people? Is that the better results for them? Is it a better result for society to have more people using pot or less? You see what I'm saying about the perverse objectives of these idiots who you end up voting for, who are Democrats? I don't know what's happened to them. I used to be one a long time ago, way back when you voted just by paper, I think. And then this guy came along in the Republican Party called Abraham Lincoln, and I became a Republican. I'm old. So now we're going to take a short break to talk about a device you should get. It's going to save you a lot of money. It's also going to save your privacy, and it's going to give you lots of flexibility to do even some of your own programming. So take a close listen to this.
The year is 2022. Cancel culture is the new normal. Online freedom as we know it has ended. Digital stockades are here. All activity is monitored, stored, and predictively analyzed by a technological cartel. We're being converted into a digital resource, a digital currency to be farmed for metadata and loaded into a computerized combine, blockchained to a social engineering operating system. However, it doesn't have to be this way. Be part of a new technological revolution. Right now, 1,000 test pilots have launched themselves into a new digital frontier, a private network outside of big tech control. New technology with state-of-the-art digital engagement and never-done-before security and privacy features that are now operational. With Quick's digital engagement, entertainment, communication, and commercial exchange will never be the same. We are QUX. Quicks. Advanced pre-release sales are limited to 3,000. Order now by visiting quicks.tv. Get yours now before they sell out. Be part of a brand new online experience that you control.
Absolute necessities on your diet. Now, you don't get enough of them because our life is so mixed up today, or many of us, so full that we don't have the planned meals that our parents and grandparents used to have. So if you take balance of nature fruits and balance of nature veggies, if you take, I would say, you really should take 2 to 3 to 4 of the veggies a day to 2 to 3 or 4 of the fruits per day. So I had, so this would be 6 for me today. I had 2, about 5 this morning. I had 2 more of each at noon, and now I'm having my ceremonial but real toast with you to good health.
We're going to do this every night. We got to pick a
with
time.
balanceofnature.com, promo code Rudy, for which you get, is it 35%?
35% off. I have to ask myself every time. That's unheard of. That's unheard of, and our audience gets that discount
off.
because you know the mayor. Well, you feel like you know the mayor.
Promo code, you don't know the mayor. Promo code Rudy.
Yeah.
You just put down mayor, you don't get anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rudy. And remember, and look, if you've been with us for the last year for an hour every night, you basically do kind of know us, don't they?
We're friends.
Yeah. So we are gonna, and we're gonna formalize this balance of nature minute. We want to make it the same time every night, and so everyone can kind of prepare for it.
I want to make it the same time every night, so you can get, now that lots of people have gotten them.
Yeah.
I'd like everybody to get theirs out, either the big one or the little ones. I'm going to encourage everyone over the next month or two to stock up on some of the little ones, because around Christmas time we're going to have some fun with them. And if you have like 5 or 6 of them hanging around that have been used already, we'll show you how you can make them into, ornaments. The little ones. I don't have it on Friday. I'll have I think on Friday, maybe Monday. We're not sure. Friday is our big
Ronkonkoma, we got a
live event in the interesting place called Ronkonkoma. People can't pronounce that.
I can't pronounce it.
My grandmother, who was born in Italy, both my grandmothers were born in Italy. Both of them spoke perfect English, by the way. I'm not even sure they could remember Italian, but she could never get Ronkonkoma right. And my cousins and I used to find it so much fun. She would say, coming out here, we would say, Grandma, what lake did we pass coming out here? And she'd say, Conconkimo. I mean, she would get this big long, she'd make up this big long word that's even harder to say than Ronkonkoma, but she wouldn't say the right. You'd say, Grandma, it's Ronkonkoma, not Conconkimo. I said, it's an Indian name. It's Conconkimo. Okay, Nanny, that's good.
Mayor, you went out of your way, I bet, to get her to say it.
Not just me, all my cousins.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not singling you
My
out.
cousins were
Not
all
singling you
wise
out.
guys.
Not
They were
singling
all
you out.
wise guys, the males and the females, and we had so much fun together. I had no brothers or sisters, so my cousins substituted as my brothers and sisters, some of whom, are still, thank God, alive, and I love them dearly. Love being with them, love seeing them. They're wonderful people, just wonderful people. And I got to tell you, they helped me get elected. They were all part of my campaign. It was like a big family event.
And there's a few Rudies in the bunch.
Oh, really confusing. I could send Rudy Giuliani.
I've met a few.
Two or three times to give. One of them was a hero in the Navy and a hero in the police department, with 3 decorations in the police department and 2 in the Navy. His son was a very, very well-regarded principal of a special high school. In the old days, they called them reform schools. He'd get really angry at me if I called it reform school. That's like a backward way to describe it. But these kids were dangerous, but a big guy. His father was big. He's big. He's kind of like, he intimidates without being intimidating, and he's the sweetest guy you'd ever meet. But he's a big. So we'll be out at Lake Ronkonkoma. And you want to give them the details, Ted?
That's
You can get there at 2:30 when the fun and festivities begin. We're probably going to get there around noon or 1 and set up for our radio show. Because whenever we go to the America First warehouse, we do our radio show from there. And then we do America's Mayor Live, which we're going to do a special. It'll run from 7 to 9. The 7 to 8 will be kind of loose. We'll have put people on and stuff like that. The 8 to 9 will be our usual show. And then next week, we're going to start our experiment at 7 o'clock with America's Mayor Live. And then a little carryover into the 8 o'clock hour. Eventually, will become America's Mayor Confidential. We're putting that together right now, and we'll have more on that maybe before the end of the week.
Well, of course, Mayor. Now we may not be watching. Some of our audience may be watching. We're minutes away from the start.
I'm looking over at the TV, and some of my good friends are there, like Larry Kudlow. What a fine man.
Good man.
But on that horrible station, and they're only 53 seconds away from the single-digit debate. This debate is to see if at the end somebody can get to 10%. My guess is that our friend Vivek will get there first. What do you say, Ted?
I am with you. We may be a little biased. Of course, we know of Vivek, and he's been very good to us, very good to the mayor. But it's debate night in America, and it's interesting because we don't even really, I mean, throughout the day, we're going over the show and stuff, and that really never you haven't stressed that at all today, right? With everything else going on, everything else in the news. I mean, we're not even
the only ones covering it. I mean, nobody else covers it. They're the only ones covering it. Look, Larry's so embarrassed. He's red.
Well, how about this? On a serious note, what advice do you have? Let's say one of these candidates called you and said, Mayor Giuliani, what can we do? And let's say you weren't squarely with Trump, right? Obviously, we're not going to give away any secrets here. What would you? I guess maybe generally speaking, what should a candidate be doing?
We gave a candidate some advice
Yeah.
last night, and I drew from my
You did.
Roger Ailes.
That was great, by the way.
My
He
Roger
loves-
Ailes playbook. I have two playbooks. I have the David Garth and the Roger Ailes playbook, so that when I give advice, it's not. I mean, I'm not a political consultant, but I had two of the best, Roger and David, and they had. They taught pretty much the way I do with principles. I mean, like if you read my book Leadership, you'll see how I teach. I sort of have
guiding principles.
and then we flesh out the principle from which you really gain the learning. So this was make sure you keep eye contact. That's what we were talking about. I mean, there are some things that just help. It's not like it's not going to change you from a terrible candidate to a great one. In fact, you can't make somebody a candidate. They either have it or they don't. You usually can tell. They can be terrible, but you usually can tell. I'll tell you what a great golf instructor told me once. So I went to him for instructions because I wanted to learn how to play golf in the worst way because I wanted to play with my son, who eventually became a professional golfer. And he got 20 golf balls out, and he put them out there, and he let me hit 20 golf. I just hit 20 golf balls. Boom, 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 boom. And after it was over, he said to me, "You know why I do that?" I said, "No, but I'm tired." He said, "I do that because if I give you 20 times the swing and you don't make one good swing, I recommend tennis. However, if I see even one good swing, much less 4, 5, or 6, I know I can make you into a golfer because I can build around what you do right rather than reconstruct everything." Well, that's what you do with a candidate. You look at them, and I can tell you right away whether somebody's going to be a good candidate or not. Right away. Do they have it or don't they? They may be terrible, but you can see that ability to connect, which is almost natural, the ability to connect with people. The sense that you like that person, they like you. They convey even from the stage the sense that they like you. That you almost can't teach. You can magnify it tremendously. You can get, boy, if you have a candidate, if you're a political advisor, you got a candidate that's got that, boy, the rest of it you can teach, and then you can also hone that ability. And I'm not saying make the person into a phony. Just get them to recognize it more, recognize it better, that they, part of winning a public office is getting people, particularly certain offices like the presidency, like an executive office in particular. People want to like you because they have to deal with you. They have to deal with you quite a bit. And I think Trump has introduced into the equation, you've got to have more of a sense of realism. I mean, Trump has put a real premium on a candidate being a real person, a full person, not a not a cardboard script that then goes back and is totally different backstage. I mean, someday when I feel like being really open, since I know all these people, not all, I know most of them personally, I've debated a lot of them, I'll tell you the real ones and the make-believe ones. And I bet you know it already. I bet you know it already.
And you,
I mean, I ran in 07 and 08 with 11 opponents at one time. This little group here was nothing in comparison to that. So here's the first thing I don't like about this. It begins with like a stupid ad, like an ad. They're talking about the economy and then they're showing all these pictures. I don't know. Lincoln and Douglas weren't shown pictures, They were asked questions, they had to answer them. How about we do that, guys, instead of all this mumbo jumbo?
Well, I'm not going to say it about Chris Christie and some of these other candidates, whether they benefit or not from the pictures.
Oh my God, they're showing a picture of Biden looking Like,
Mayor, this debate, of course, is at the Reagan Library. You, one of my favorites of
also
you.
my first debate was at the Reagan.
Was that the first one? I remember that.
Where Chris Matthews tried to take me out with one question. Because I was I was like the new candidate.
Yeah.
Take me out with one question.
What did he say? Do you remember?
Mayor Giuliani, could you tell us the difference between Sunni and Shia?
Really?
I said, Chris, would you like me to tell you the historic difference, or the current difference?
Oh my goodness.
He said,
He had no idea what that is.
let's go with historic. It began as a dispute over who would succeed Muhammad. Would the succession be based on blood or election? And the Sunnis opted for blood, and the Shia opted for election. Sorry, the other way around. The Shia opted for blood, and the Sunnis opted for election. And believe it or not, that started to begin a fissure between them. And the Sunni kind of took over in the Arab lands, and the Shia took over in the ones that were more dominated by Persia. So now you introduce not only that difference in decision, but you also introduced an ethnic difference because the Persians, frankly, always believed they were better than the Arabs, and the Arabs always believed that the Persians were full of themselves. That then led to a kind of a difference in liturgy. The Sunnis tended to be much more, think of the Sunnis as sort of austere Protestantism, and think of the Shia as much more emotional Catholicism or even evangelical emotionalism. And then, my goodness, it began warfare. He said, yeah, okay. I said, would you like me to tell you the current difference? He said, no, not necessary. And afterwards, he came up to me. I think I passed his dressing room when I was all finished. He called me over. I knew him really well. Not really well. I knew him. I liked Chris Matthews. He said, Rudy, come here. He said, you knew I asked you that to try to take you out. We always do that with a first-time candidate. I said, of course I knew it. But you know I'm the smartest guy on that stage. What'd you try that for?
Yeah, you didn't.
Never lack confidence.
You didn't fail it. You didn't fail that test like Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate. He was asked about Aleppo. Remember?
Oh yeah.
What's
yeah.
Aleppo? I mean, my goodness, right? That was something else. So they didn't get. They didn't get the mayor.
If they really wanted to, I'm sorry. You could be the most brilliant guy in the world. You pick something really, really unusual
Esoteric.
and weird,
Yeah.
esoteric. Unless the guy is lucky, right?
Yeah, and they happen to
Unless
know.
the guy is lucky, you're going to take him out. So it's kind of stupid, but some questions would be good because some of these people are such idiots. I mean, I wonder how Kamala Harris would do.
I would answer that question
with a Jesse Waters kind of test. You know how Jesse used to go out and ask
Oh.
people who's the president, and
Yeah.
they would say Abraham Lincoln or something.
Yeah.
I wonder how Kamala Harris would do.
Oh, they'd be smart
If
not
she
to
would
let
ask
her.
things like, "Who's the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court?"
The Democrat Party.
The Supreme Court is a court that is supreme. It's a Supreme Court, which means it's a court that is not like other courts, because other courts are not Supreme Courts. It's the Supreme Court. No. Madam Vice President, who's the Chief Justice? And there is a chief. There is definitely a chief. And what's his name? His name is Chief Justice. Well, thank you. Thank you, Miss Harris. Was that good?
That was real. Oh God, that's a good.
Is that better?
That's good on her laugh. Well, Mayor, we're well into soccer time.
Okay, so
I don't think we're rushing off for the debate, though. I don't think our audience is rushing over to see.
No, I actually
Tim Scott and who else is on there?
Oh, come on. We like
Doug
Tim.
Burgum?
We like Tim.
Oh, I'm sorry. I picked the wrong.
one up- I'm
I
not
did
even
pick the
gonna
one
tell
guy
you.
that you would. Yeah.
The one up there now
Yeah.
is not exactly my favorite since he wouldn't talk to me for 10 days before the counting of the vote, which actually probably saved me
Look at
from
him.
getting indicted. But I never got to talk to him.
Yeah.
And they probably would have said it was a crime if I just explained my view of the law to him. I wasn't entitled to have my view of the law.
He looks, without hearing his words, look how fiery he looks. He's real fired up now. This is not the Mike Pence we knew 6 years ago.
Roger, I think it was Roger who used to say, maybe even David, a lot of political consultants say, you want to watch somebody sometimes without the words.
Yes.
It gives you an idea of how they look and how they look. Look at how Vivek is looking now.
Yeah.
Was that
Very
a good, was that
presidential.
a good thing or a bad? I think that was a good thing.
Very presidential.
It shows he's engaged. It's sort of the opposite of the Bush mistake of looking at your watch, or
That's a
or
great
the
movie.
Biden insult of looking at the watch at the ceremony for the people who died in Afghanistan. What a horrible thing! What a horrible man.
My goodness!
What a horrible man!
My
What a
goodness!
horrible man he is. Well, I would say Pence up. We're just
He's all fired
evaluating
up. Look.
I think that looks like a good presidential answer, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. That looks like someone who wants to be president.
That looks
and
like
he's all in.
That looks like a presidential answer. Well,
Tim, he gets all the screen time. This guy, Tim's been on the whole night.
let's take a short break.
Okay.
And let's do our
T2T.
yeah one more time, because it's so important that people get that and do that. Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
Has not made money in terms of this thing about what are you talking about? China. I have not had it. The only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Look,
Very quick.
there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan.
And here is the Russian pawn, or the hacker, or the groper, or maybe just Rudy, good old Rudy, the same Rudy that turned New York around, the same Rudy that sent 2 Nazis off to their punishments, the same Rudy who crashed up the mafia, the same Rudy who reduced crime more than any mayor in history. Same Rudy. Maybe I'm the same. And the Democrats are different. Did you ever think of that? So we're going to conclude in a moment now, but let's do just a little bit more of our looking at how the candidates are doing.
Well, that's Chris Christie's what? That's,
Oh yeah.
you got
that's
the
what-
whole family right there.
Well, okay, that's
Unless you
all right.
that's fine.
That's okay. He's allowed. Now, I know you like to pick on Chris,
Not-
but I have to warn you of a couple of things. He's bigger than you are.
He's bigger than me. That's fair.
I'm not saying that doesn't mean you are not faster. But if he started rolling on you,
Down the hill. Ooh.
now Chris looks very serious now.
He doesn't look as I think he we'll see when we turn it on.
He doesn't look angry.
Yeah.
Usually we're used to seeing him looking angry, which is a mistake. He looks kind of okay. He looks serious.
Yep.
Looks relaxed, engaged. Looks like he's talking too much. He always looks like he's talking too much. He has that sort of appearance of talking too much. Oh, there now he probably has gone. I can't even tell, but I bet he's gone a little beyond his limit already.
Oh,
Yeah, you can see that. You can see. Okay,
Yeah, no,
okay, Chris. Now he's looking at the others like they're interested in him, and frankly, Chris, they have no interest in you. The people you should be looking at are like the ones out there.
That's so funny. We could just live stream the whole thing.
There
right?
he is, right there. He's being very earnest now. Now we got the earnest Chris. He's looking at the reporter, not the camera. No, a lot of them are jumping on him here. So he must have said something that's controversial because two of them are speaking at once. Doug Burgum and Tim Scott. No, DeSantis and Scott were both speaking over each other, and DeSantis won the jump ball. And so he's now contradicting. I bet he is now contradicting Christie. And look at Ron. Look at Ron, Ted. He looks like concerned, doesn't he? He has like that concerned look on his face.
he's trying really hard. He looks like he really, really wants you to vote for him. Come on, guys. Guys,
He's trying to figure out how he's at 8%. How did I get here? I spent $50 million to get at 8%.
to go down.
Maybe if I don't spend money, I'll do better.
Oh gosh.
He's
no longer the front runner. He's no longer the right.
But they did put him in the middle.
Is he in the middle? Of course he is.
They generally, it used to be the rule, in the olden days when I did it, that you did it in the front runner was in the middle, and who is in the middle?
She's texting right here.
Who's texting?
Her.
Oh,
Or she's
texting.
checking her phone.
I think you're allowed to text.
Yeah, she's checking her phone. He's got a lot of FaceTime so far. The first 15 minutes, I've seen Tim 4 different times at least. Granted, there's only 7 of them on stage, so maybe you're.
Yeah,
It's not like there's 10 now.
This will do better. This will do better than.
That's a nice tie.
They'll get a little more time. They'll get a little more time than. This must be a very long question.
Right?
This question's gone on.
It's not really a question, right? It's
Tim had that look on his face like, well, like which part of this thing you want me to answer? The first, the second, the third, the fourth? That was quite an essay.
It's like when there's a person speaking at your school and kid gets up.
You know the mistake that is from a reporter's point of view? It allows you to pick the part of the question you want to answer. I always liked reporters who ask complex questions because they didn't usually have the discipline to go back and make sure, or the time to go back and make sure you answered every part of the question. So maybe you don't like 3 parts, but you like one, so you pick the one that you like.
But they can always get you back, right, Mayor, when you give them too long of a quote, because then they can cut down the quote.
Always good to be.
Yep. And I've learned that, especially this last year.
So let's see if he goes on and on.
So
I already think that Tim is going on a little too long here. So the best way to answer a big, long question and appear really, give a short answer.
I also like Tim, but
I like
Tim
Tim.
in short answers, I don't know.
Does Tim talk on?
Not a lot, but he's kind of got this whole. Yeah. I'm not hating.
Now, Vivek didn't like that. Burgum didn't like that.
Whatever just happened.
And Pence looked like he was upset with that. And it seems to be the burgundy tie night. There's
I
burgundy
noticed
tie
that.
night. They don't want to imitate Trump and wear red ties, right?
So it's got to be dark. I like that dark
But
red.
they like the red.
The dark red. And it's Reagan, right? It's Reagan Library.
Reagan used striped ties a lot.
Did any of them not go with the red tie?
Well, let's take a look. Where Vivek has, that's really burgundy more than red.
I like that red, though. That is my favorite. I'm going to call that presidential red.
And
he's got the best. He's got your American flag.
That is not presidential red. That's burgundy.
Oh, is presidential red a color?
No, but presidential red is like the red in the flag.
Okay, that would be.
That's a burgundy. That's a burgundy.
I stand corrected.
That's a burgundy red.
That's red.
That's red. Yes. Who are we pointing out now? Let's.
We should point out and guess who's from which family.
Now Burgum comes closer to having a real red.
And I like his American flag pin. Burgum's got a different flag pin.
It's still a little bit burgundy, right? has a little burgundy in it.
Yep.
It's not like red. Red.
Our friend there, the host, he went with the baby blue tie. That's Christie's family back there, right? For the most part.
That's Christie's family.
Yeah.
And there's my hero.
There's your hero.
Now they have. See, now is Rudy right, or is that a striped tie? Take a quick look.
That's a striped tie.
Take a quick look.
That's a striped tie.
Do I know my man?
Yeah, you know your guy.
Man, he'd have wiped the floor with all you about. Guys. He was not a single digit candidate ever.
Ever. Oh, come on. Reagan? Oh, gosh.
Reagan was not a single digit candidate, boys and girls. Oh, he's really.
Oh, look at that
Whoa,
face.
Chris has got that look now.
He's got his eyes on. That's
Man,
a
oh, man, it
juicy
looks like
piece of steak out
that
there.
looks like something from The Sopranos. Look at that. Looks like The Sopranos. Look at that.
He's ready to pounce.
Whoa.
That's like a. Oh,
Oh man, he's disappointed.
yeah. Now the answer.
very,
He's
very
reading. He's reading. He's
disappointed.
reading.
Easy, Chris. Easy.
Easy, buddy. Easy, buddy. The
Yeah.
buffet table will still be out there afterwards, I think. And not let don't shut that down early. Don't worry. I'll keep
See
it.
how much fun you can have watching a debate with us without watching it?
We should. There's got to be a
think
way.
you think this? Don't you think this is more fun than listening to them? I mean, who knows what he's talking about right now? Who cares? Put it up for a minute. Let's find out.
Turn it up.
Let's just find
All
out
right,
what
we're
he's talking
gonna
about.
give you guys some.
And then we will sign off. Particularly if it's interesting.
Yeah.
Do we have our little remote somewhere? Now, Christie does have a different tie on. I'll give him that. He doesn't have a burgundy tie.
Also to make sure,
But it is a
there's
little
much
burgundy,
different
too.
message. We want you here in this country to fill the 6 million vacant jobs we have, but only if you come here to follow the law.
Why don't
and
why don't
only if you
Americans
come here
take those
legally.
jobs?
If you come here illegally,
We have
will
10 million
apprehend you
people that aren't going back to
and send you
work.
back across the border from which you came. And the fact is, and
Now they're
until we
all
set
gonna
a
get
law
tough.
and order
I'm
agenda in
gonna
this
send them
country,
back.
not only
still
now,
red.
but in the
I'm
future,
gonna bomb
we won't
them.
be able to continue
I think
this.
DeSantis
Look,
wants
I'll
to
tell you
bomb.
this.
I don't know, I'm not
Donald
sure.
Trump failed
His
on
tie
this
is
as well.
There, I heard you say his tie is still red. It might be a
Yeah,
pattern
but
to it, but it's still
But I'm
red.
telling you, they sort of favoring sort of toward the burgundy type red instead of
Maybe
the.
a non-red tie. If I went up there and saw that everyone else
Okay,
had red tie, I'd
we're
go,
gonna declare the winner, whoever has a non-red tie.
Nope, they all red.
Haley. Nikki Haley.
Oh yeah.
She's got a burgundy dress on.
Yeah. Yo, she doesn't have a red tie, Mayor.
She's got a burgundy
Yeah,
dress
exactly.
on. What is it?
What's going on? They're
It
all
looks
red.
like burgundy was the color of the
In
day.
the last decade, the U.S. has spent nearly 50
So
I-
now they're showing pictures again.
root causes of migration. But
Now we're
Trump's
showing
poverty,
pictures
corruption,
because
they
it's too
persist,
boring
and
to look at the
number of
candidates.
migrants is only growing. Are we wasting our money?
Well, what happens is when Joe Biden waved the green flag, it told everybody to come. And
Look,
now we've
burgundy.
got 6 million people cross the border.
That's
We've got
burgundy.
national-
Oh, sorry.
that have
Burgundy.
That's burgundy. Look at it.
Vietnam or Afghanistan wars combined.
They all have burgundy.
See behind her? See
Yeah.
the line behind her? That
Yeah.
would be the more classic red.
Red.
Everything this country was
So
founded
she's closer to red than burgundy.
The way we do that is, first of all, defund sanctuary.
I'm telling you, they're all wearing the same, pretty much the same color, which is a variant of red called burgundy.
25,000
Here.
more border patrol and ICE agents on the ground and
That's
let
red.
them do their job. I spent 400 miles down that border, and I'm telling you, border patrol agents aren't allowed to do their job. Let's
She's
go
right.
back
I
to
mean,
remain in Mexico
they are not
policy.
allowed to, which is
Instead
totally
of catch and release,
totally
let's go to catch
absurd,
and
not
deport.
allowing them to do their job.
That we've been, what about the
I mean, these
aid
are
that
our
the
people. We
taxpayers
agree
are
with
paying
them, right?
to deal with the root causes? It's not working?
The
Or is
only
it?
aid that we should be spending right now is to secure the border, the southern border, the northern border, period.
You would cut off
We need
aid
to
to the
keep
region?
Americans safe, and right now Americans
don't think they're
are
allowed to
unsafe.
clap.
Only when we fix the
Notice there's been
immigration
no
system,
clap.
only
No
when
clapping.
we get the border secure, should
They
we
didn't let the
look
Trump
at putting
supporters in the
any
room.
more
They
money
can't
into
tell
this.
me what to do.
All money should be
Tom
invested
Hanks
in
behind
Americans
us.
safe. We're not doing that. Joe Biden's
Trump
not
supporters
doing
wouldn't
that.
listen
And
to
you
that.
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah, you
Congress
know this isn't a
and
Trump
shutting
debate.
down
They'd be
government.
hooting and hollering.
These are
Hooting
right.
each other.
This is the Rhino
In
debate.
4 years. In 4
I'm
years.
a
Congress has
I'm
budget
a
on time
traditional
4 times
Republican.
in
Well,
4
golf clap
years.
once in a while,
If
golf
they
clap,
don't
right?
keep the government open, they should not get paid. No pay, no budget. That's the way we should be.
I gotta get one DeSantis.
Okay, the hosts are red, white, and blue.
Invested at $12 billion.
They are red, white, and blue. They're red, blue, and white.
They signed a strategic
Right? Am I right?
partnerships
They had to put
with
the guy in the
several
middle.
countries, including Mexico.
He's got some white,
And China's
but you're right,
major
they're red, white,
ties to
blue.
the region
administration now include arms sales.
All right, Governor DeSantis, here we go. He's got his game face.
Governor DeSantis has that concerned look on his face. Like he's concerned.
Of course not.
What are you
And the
worried
reason why
about,
we're in
Ron?
this mess is because
You
the
think about
leaders
all that
in
money
DC
you're
for
wasting?
far too long have chosen surrender over strength when it comes to the CCP. Some people in our country got rich, our industrial base got hollowed out, and they have been able to build the second most powerful military in the entire world. We need a totally new approach to China. We are going to have real hard
Good, I agree with
power
this.
in the Indo-Pacific,
He's right. We
like
should have a
Reagan to
totally different
deter
approach to
their
China. We should get
ambitions.
tough.
We're going to have economic
We should have a
independence
Reagan
from
approach to
We're
China.
decoupling our economy.
Absolutely right.
We are going to go after the cultural.
I mean,
power they have in this
one of
country.
these
Governor
people,
of
do
Florida
you agree with me,
banned
Ted,
the
that
CCP
one of these
from buying
people
land
will
in
be
our
a
state.
president
We should do
someday?
that all across these
Or
United
do you think
States.
they are basically a single-digit
We
group?
shouldn't have Confucius institutes. So you see a country in decline.
That's a very good question. Honestly, when I look at the whole,
Well, you got a couple. You got a couple.
Okay, yes. The answer
You
is
got a
yes.
couple of stars that aren't
Yeah,
there.
yes. The answer is yes.
Whether
right.
we regard them as stars or not, I'm not going to give away. But for example, you don't have Cruz and Rubio.
That's what I'm thinking.
You don't have Pompeo.
If
You don't have the former Secretary of State, right?
Right.
You have his subordinate there.
Right.
Even if the children are citizens of the United States, under what legal premise
she's the white
will you
in the
expel
flag.
U.S. citizens?
So the first thing I want to say is I
See,
agree with
burgundy
everything
tie.
the
Same
Republicans
color
on the
as-
stage are on the right
same
side
color
of this
as,
issue.
as Nikki.
Militarize the southern border, stop funding sanctuary cities, and end foreign aid to Mexico and Central America to end the incentives to come across. But I do go a step further. You're right about that, Ilya. I favor ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal immigrants in this country. Now, the left will howl.
Very
about the
interesting
Constitution
question,
and the 14th
whether you
Amendment.
can do that
The difference between me
without
and them is I've
amending the
actually read the 14th
Constitution.
Amendment. What it says is that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the laws and jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So nobody believes that the kid of a Mexican diplomat in this country enjoys birthright citizenship. Not a judge or legal scholar in this country will
true.
disagree with
Look
that.
at
DeSantis.
Well, if the
Look
kid
at
of a
DeSantis. Oh, this guy's
diplomat
good.
doesn't enjoy birthright citizenship, then neither
What a
does the
good
kid
answer.
of an illegal.
It is a good
migrant
answer, but it's a bit of an
who broke the law to
esoteric
come
one.
here.
Yes.
And as the father of two sons, it is hard for me to look them in the eye and say, you have to follow the law when our own government fails to follow its own laws.
Zizek, I
That's how we
suggest
really
you
go
look
the
your sons in
distance
the eye and tell them
solve
to
this
follow the
problem
law
and
regardless.
restore the rule of law in the United States of America. Because
gotta-
that
we
is
gotta- we
part
gotta
of
talk
what it
to
even
Vivek.
means to be an
I
American.
can talk to him that way. I'm older than he is.
Ending birthright citizenship? What does
Ending
it tell us
birthright
about
citizenship. I think
issue?
Trump is in
There's
favor
no
of it.
doubt the fact that when you think of the Constitution and the 14th Amendment.
I'm not, I don't think we can do it, but
Not as it relates to illegal immigration. It's gonna
well,
apply to illegal immigration.
we're going to let you now make your choice as to whether you want to get bored out of your mind with a single-digit group like we are, because we're junkies. You know, we do admit to
help
being.
it.
And if you're watching this show, you probably are political junkies too, like we are, right? What do you think? We probably have a good sampling of people exceedingly interested.
Yep.
And who knows? We may be. I'm serious. This guy could be a president. I mean, it's not impossible. Vivek, I'd have to give Vivek about 10 more years actually of development. He could be a president. Burgum, maybe got a long way to go. I mean, I need to know more about him.
You could say that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party.
Oh, here we go. A little shot. Scott taking a little body blow there to Vivek. This is the Chinese Communist Party.
What do you say?
You were in.
Who are tainted by a broken system. And it's not the fault of anybody who's in power. Excuse me. Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting. You know, I'm speaking.
We're not going to get an answer here.
Gentlemen, you'll have your turn.
Now,
Okay,
DeSantis.
Ron, sit down.
Do they have things called moderators in this debate?
Keep going, guys. That's hilarious.
So if I may, I really want to say this on China.
All right, Mayor, do we want to say goodnight to
All
our
right,
audience?
so don't
That's funny,
forget,
though.
if you want to watch this, you better take a little of this.
It's amazing. That was amazing what we just saw. Vivek did not back down.
No, that's
back
good.
down.
No, Ron, I think Ron handled this well. Look at him smiling. He helped him. Oh, there it is. There's the Air Force One. I was on the board of the Reagan Library. I remember when we acquired that.
In China, and I will say something. Yes.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. You can get me at 3 o'clock. We'll tell you who the winner is. The person who has the most perfect burgundy is the winner. And we'll go from 5% to 6%. And Trump will gain 4 points. Trump will win because he'll gain the most points for not having participated in this debate that you can't figure out what they're talking about because it's now like a chorus. Well, thank you very, very much. We'll see you tomorrow night. God bless America. Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it.